Hey everyone, welcome to Marketing Monday and happy holidays. Hope you're gotten your shopping done at this point and ready to go for Christmas anyway, if that's what you celebrate. And want to welcome you here today. We are still here. We're going to be back here next week too, shortly after Christmas. Just a couple of Watertown SBDC announcements. Just want to remind everybody that we're here to help if you're just starting a business or you own a business and you're looking for some assistance and growth. And the advisors at the Watertown SBDC are here to help, so feel free to reach out when needed. And we do have an upcoming 2022 tax planning webinar coming up with Amanda Stickle. She will be with us January 13th. That's a Thursday at noon, live on Facebook. We're going to hear some tax planning tips from Amanda. Looking forward to doing that with her. And we also are promoting some things through the Cornell Cooperative Extension that are happening in January and February. In January, they're starting out a forum on beekeeping. So if you are in the ag business or you've ever thought about beekeeping, this is sort of something for beginners. So we thought that was really cool. We'll have that up on our Facebook page soon. And if you're a client of the Watertown SBDC, you may be getting an email about that. And then in February, they're doing a really cool thing, a seed exchange. And of course, I think this might be dependent on how open everybody is and doing things in person, but they're doing a seed exchange in time for planting season. So we're promoting that as well. So keep an eye on our Facebook page for all of those things coming up in 2022. And Nicole, what have we got going on today? We're talking about nonprofits and how small businesses can partner with nonprofits and help, right?
Right. Well, and we know that this is a really big time of year for nonprofits. It's also a big time of year for small businesses. And I know that most people, like, we all want to help, right? We all want to help especially our local nonprofits that are doing work in our communities. And as a business owner, people might not be sure of all of the options they have available. Obviously, everybody wants money. I mean, we all want money. But if you're a small business and maybe you've had, I don't know, kind of a rough year or a rough couple of years, and you still want to help, but you don't necessarily have the cash on hand, we wanted to give you some other options to be able to do that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave you in here because you can add to the commentary. I made a slide, guys. So if you just, I'll periodically put it up. It's the same slide over and over again. So if you want to take a screenshot to remember later or something like that, I'll leave it on the screen for a second. And I'll keep bringing it up throughout the broadcast. So if you missed your opportunity there, don't worry. Obviously, there's lots of different ways to help with nonprofits, and they don't all involve money, and they can still be helpful. So first, one option that I think where a lot of us are familiar with is matching, or sort of a profit sharing type program where maybe if you know that they're going to raise $500, you're willing to give $500 or something like that. Erica, I think you probably have some experience with that with your business, right? With your bookstore, something like that.
Um,
No, oh no,
not
or just even with your work as the SBDC. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot there. Go
No,
ahead.
that's okay. Honestly, Nicole, I don't have anything as far as matching. I think that as a collaborative effort and community or those kinds of things. I mean, I was going to talk a little bit today about the angel tree that we did at Creekside Books and Coffee, and that kind of thing, and also donating proceeds from sales that is
Oh
sort of
yeah, that's kind of. I guess
yeah.
everything in this first bullet point is like you can give money in creative ways, and I didn't really think of all the creative ways to do that.
Okay.
So yeah, so tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about how you'd, I don't know, help somebody approach that, because clearly.
Yeah, and I think two things that don't necessarily feel like money out of pocket. Actually, our angel tree wasn't money out of pocket, except that
Mhm.
so our customers would come in, and we had to have a food pantry in our local community, just like most,
Mhm.
and they would actually give us anonymous cards to put on our tree that just gave like the name and the gender of a child, and we had books and we had toys and everything, so customers would come in and pick something out and pay for the item, right? So it was really
Mhm.
there. We were making it easy for them to make that donation, to bring their children in with them, right? And kind of make
Mhm.
that effort during the holiday season as a family or whatever. And
Mhm.
but then we would wrap it for free. So that's a little added expense. And then we would also give them a coupon for a free cup of coffee or 20% off on their return or so, return purchase. So, or once when they return to the store. So,
Yeah, so that's kind of
with
like
that,
you giving money, but not directly.
right, exactly. So it made it right, exactly. So it was our customers contributing, but we were making it easy for them, and it was some added expense, but it didn't feel like so out of pocket, And then the food pantry would just come pick up, huge bags of books and toys and that kind of thing. It worked out really well. We did that for years. So collaborating with a nonprofit that way in your town and having giving your customers an easy way to donate over the holiday season is a great way to do that. And I think also, Liz mentioned this too, even just being a place where people, like where you can, do like a coat drive or something like that in your, vestibule or something, or in the, inside your front door, something like that, as far as being just a venue for a nonprofit to have a coat drive or something like that, or a toy drive is a good idea. That's not money out of pocket too, right?
Right. And yeah, like we're jumping around a little, which is fine, but
Yeah.
mostly talk about if you're doing like if we're talking money, matching or maybe you say like our 10% of our profits for the month are going toward, and some people pick different charities every month. Sometimes it's like an ongoing partnership. You
Mhm.
can have a little temperature thing, a little thermos, a little
Yeah.
rising mercury showing like how you're approaching donations, whether it's physically in your business location or online. Sometimes that encourages people, especially if you're close. And if you know that if you get to this point, it's going to be matched. So it's like you're giving $10, but it's really like, the power of $20 because someone else is going to be matching it. So there are ways to kind of sort of collect money in a sort of creative way and take advantage of people feeling really generous. And
Yeah.
you talked about this idea of the giving tree, which is like partnering with a nonprofit. Maybe it's like you said, it could be
Hmm.
a shelter, it could be um, a women's like a domestic violence
Right.
type project, and they could have an idea of the sort of thing that the person would want. Maybe this is a person who likes puzzles, or this is a person who, and it gives you an idea. And
Hmm.
if you're a gifty kind of store that has a lot of different items, like that's a really good thing for you. And even if you wanted to host a very specific one, even if it was like, hey, we want to help people buy books this year. So
Yeah.
like people could request specific kinds of books or specific
Yeah.
titles.
And let's not
It could,
forget, those customers are purchasing those books from us. I
yeah,
mean, that's so giving a coupon or something, something like that, or
yeah,
matching or doing, like we would also at the end, if there were children left on the tree, we would go, we would donate books or toys or something like that too. And
mhm,
that's kind of like a creative way to match. But
mhm,
I mean, it certainly was, you know, it was kind of revenue driving for us too, because our
mhm.
customers wanted to shop for things that way for, yeah, in a convenient way. So,
Yeah, and I think
mhm.
these kind of, matching or donation or the giving trees are things that we've really seen. Like they're things that have been around for years, and like, we can even visualize what that looks like. And I kind of wanted to do a couple of like sort of online ones in here, maybe
Mhm.
stuff that people aren't thinking of. And one of them is called a social media takeover. And have you ever heard of this concept, Erica? It's
Not
kind
really.
of weird. It's
Yeah.
basically what you do is, let's say that you were, I don't know, let's say I am the owner of a nonprofit, education nonprofit, and you own your bookstore. And what you say is, hey, let's do a social media takeover. You give me access to post to your Facebook page, and I give you access to post to mine.
Oh,
And
right. Yeah.
basically, I'm posting things about my educational nonprofit onto your business's Facebook page, and you could also post things onto my page. And the idea is we're in front of each other's audiences. It doesn't have to be Facebook, it could be Instagram, it can be whatever. It's usually like, it's usually for a period of, a day or a week or something, and
Mhm.
the idea is that you're putting your messages in front of a new audience. And by
Mhm.
giving them access to your audience, it can really help a nonprofit grow, and it
Yeah.
doesn't cost you anything. Um,
Yeah. It's a
to set that
fantastic
up. It's
idea.
just a little bit of
Hmm.
organization. So if you're
Right.
thinking like you could even do that, like you said, the last week of the year, or like you know, I get it. We have kind of this like end of year timeline because that's how we're thinking of things. But if you decide you want to give in January, I don't think anyone's going to be particularly angry with you.
No.
So if you wanted to like consider doing something like this first part of January, they can be a lot of fun. And I've seen a lot of large brands do it. So like I was only able to find examples of like large brands doing the social media takeover, but I don't see why us small businesses couldn't do it as well.
Mhm.
So, and then the other thing I wanted to bring up is, co-hosting an event. So I did bring up one of my friends has a nonprofit. It's called Love Not Lost. She takes, or her nonprofit, they take pictures of terminally ill people with their families, like as a last kind of, and then they give them an album, which is like really neat. So what she's been doing,
Mhm.
and I should add my screen here, is they've been trying to figure out ways to engage with people, right? Because they go to these people's, and they take pictures, but they've also want a way to talk with people that are. So they've been doing these, wine tastings and things like that. So they've partnered with a local vineyard. The local vineyard is mailing out the boxes of wine for people who buy a ticket, and then they're doing like a virtual tasting. And
That's
so
cool.
yeah, like so,
Mhm.
it can be a little bit fun. So even if I don't know, you're like, oh, I sell, I sell wine or like what can I do? You can partner with a nonprofit and help them have a really unique fundraiser. And they've
Yeah.
done some other kinds of ones too. It's not just drinking ones, but just the ability to, especially if you do some kind of like food thing or some kind of beverage thing or just some kind of general entertainment thing. Maybe
Mhm.
you're a musician, I don't know, like, or you have some kind of, there's ways that if you would host an event and the nonprofit would host a fundraiser, that you could combine those things.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a lot easier when you have a product in demand like wine, or food or, product, other kind of
Yeah,
products, or
I think they did
coffee or tea, but
I think they did a
yeah,
chocolate one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
some people do have those kind of producty ones.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
I was just going
And
back. Liz had
yeah.
some,
Oh
Liz
yeah,
had
go
a
yeah,
couple
yeah, go for it.
comments going back to the social media takeover. I just wanted to mention quickly, but
Oh,
she said,
absolutely, yeah.
social media takeover works best with equally established entities or a new biz with an established nonprofit.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And that tight controls on who is posting and when takes,
I mean,
certainly a lot of
ideally, if you're
some
handing someone your
coordination.
Instagram password, you should trust them a little bit. Yeah, that
Yeah,
makes total
you
sense.
want to know that, right, and that they're not passing it along to somebody who's just, that kind of thing. So yeah, that coordination
You could
is
also just
important too.
reset the password to something else when you get it back, just saying. Like
True. Well, true, but
that's what I would do.
yeah. Oh, right,
Not that
right.
I'm cynical or anything, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't see if it's only for a day or two or something. There's no reason
yeah.
why you can't coordinate. Like, okay, here's generally what we're putting up, so that it's
Mhm.
a little pre-approved, or something like that.
Yeah,
You
sure.
think people do that? Yeah.
I
Um,
think so. Yeah.
yeah. But again, like you said, if you're collaborating with somebody, there ought to be that trust there in the first
You're
place,
just
right?
hoping.
So yeah, right. So and Liz also mentioned good idea, like could be done, like you said, at any time of year. You could tie it into your anniversary or special holiday or owner's birthday or something like that. So those are good ideas for sure.
Yeah, yeah. No, and the ideas we're putting forth are not just necessarily holiday ideas. It feels a little more pressing this time of year. It feels a little more
Mhm.
like we're in the season of giving, right? But these could be used at any point, anytime you wanted to work with a nonprofit for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and then, and you had alluded to this earlier, Erica, if you have a physical location, you can be a collection location for a variety of, um, and I think there's a nonprofit, right, that collects, is it, period products for those who need them. And so, for example, you could
Yes.
be a drop off, and I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but I think it's a relatively local organization. You could be a
Yeah.
drop off location to collect that. You could set up a little kind of corner of your business location, and people know it's there. Probably, maybe the nonprofit listed on their website, and
Yeah.
and that could be a great
Yeah.
thing to
Listen.
do.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, and so yeah, Liz, North Country Period Products.
Mhm.
So that's a really great nonprofit that I think I learned about from you guys. And
Yeah.
it's nice because you're open regular hours. You're in a location that's safe to drop something off. You know what I mean? Like it's not going to get accidentally run
Right.
over or freeze because it's outside or whatever.
Yeah, it makes it easy for people. That's the,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that you can provide. Yeah, if you have
Yeah.
a brick and mortar store,
Yeah, and I
So
think sometimes
yeah.
we forget that a location can be really, really powerful. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, if you
Yeah.
have, if you work with, groups that need sort of certain kinds of donations on a regular basis, you can even keep a list, of like, these are the kinds of things, in November, we need more like warm coats and hats or whatever. It could change
Mhm.
seasonally, like whatever it was. So,
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
Seasonal ideas and are a good idea too. So especially if
Yeah,
you're,
yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
it's going to change, right? Different times of the year. And then another thing I wanted to bring up is if you have employees or or you just want to incentivize yourself, you could be a single person business doing this, is you can pay for
Mhm.
time spent volunteering or otherwise incentivize your employees to volunteer. So there's a really
Mhm.
popular um, and I'll just share it here. So Tom's of Maine, which is I get a large company, and I'm not saying we have to emulate large companies. This is just an example that I could think of. They have this. I guess I left it open too long. They're like, give us your email. They have this program where they actually pay for up to I think 12 days of employee
Wow.
time to spend volunteering. So
Mhm.
that can be really great too. So you can, and I get you don't have to give 12 days. Like I said, this isn't an all or nothing thing, but it's really interesting. And if you want to check it out, it's just on their website. You just, Giving for Goodness is I guess the
Yeah.
name of it. And
And I also
so
think that if there are volunteer opportunities that are not during your normal business hours, that sometimes it can be a great way to do as a group, right? Of colleagues or something to go do and just sort of have some bonding time or something to volunteer at your favorite nonprofit or, whatever nonprofit needs volunteers. I think that can be an opportunity too, to just, even if it's just a couple hours where you guys get together to do it together. I think that can be a nice cohesive, thing to do for and with employees too. So,
I think it can get
mhm.
tricky to ask people to do things outside of work hours. Like I never ask my employees to do anything outside of work hours unless I'm paying for their time. Um, I don't know.
Right.
I
Well,
think it can be good, but it has to be optional. I'm just going to put that out there
it
because
definitely has to be optional, and
yeah,
maybe there's lunch after.
yeah, sure, or
Yeah.
and definitely
Yeah.
for sure,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
yeah, it can be yeah, it can be
But
tricky.
but
I like the
definitely
idea. Yeah, I like
definitely
the
not
idea and the
required.
spirit of it. Yeah,
Yeah. Definitely not obligated. Just
yeah.
an option.
Oh yeah,
It's
for sure.
Yeah. It's also voluntary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Volunteering is voluntary. Always
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, that was pretty much it. I'll throw this on the screen, like I said, in case anyone's. This is just the general ideas we've gone over. Like I said, it doesn't have to be you giving money to a nonprofit, although I'm sure they would appreciate that. There are
Yeah.
different ways that you can elevate the visibility of the nonprofit. Even like you see something go by and share it. Share it on behalf of your business on like click that share
Yeah.
button, repost it. Like it doesn't really
Right.
cost you anything to do that.
Exactly
Um,
right. That's right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And there are a couple other things.
yeah.
I don't know if there are any questions or anything, Nicole, that
I haven't
you
seen
had
any
specifically.
come
Okay.
in. Not yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a couple things. Owning a retail store, we used to get inundated with sponsorship requests, right, for events and donations and that kind of thing. Sorry, son is chasing me again. Um, And so it was really important that this just a couple little quick tips, especially for brick and mortar people, when anybody can walk in and say, hey, is the manager there here, or the owner here, and then approach you as far as donating money. And it's all great and wonderful and everything. And I think we also wanted to point out today that, it's really great to, if I'm bouncing around a little bit, but there's so many options out there to donate, right? That sometimes, focusing on local nonprofits can be helpful as far as not feeling so overwhelmed, but also, it's really great to be able to, help out a local nonprofit, just like we were talking about with the period products and that kind of thing. But I used to get, maybe, 2, 3, maybe even a handful of requests every week, at my store. And so it was super important that I had a budget in mind for sponsorships and donations, breaking it down from annually to monthly. And one of the reasons that it helped, I mean, obviously, especially small business, have to be really careful about all of that. And you can't just, be donating to everybody that asks, right? But, it really helped me because if somebody came to me, and said, I could say, I'm sorry, our budget, I've already filled our budget, but please give me your information. I'll take a look at it. Please, if it was like a fundraiser or an event or something like that, get a hold of me a little bit earlier so I can plug it in, for the year kind of thing. And it was just sort of made it a little bit easier to say no when I had to, when I really had to. So a budget, a sponsorship and donation budget in your marketing plan is super important, especially if you're going to get a lot of requests that way. Mm-hmm.
Or even having like a policy of like, these are the kinds of things that you do. So for example, in my co-working space, we're very much like, we concentrate our giving in the way of sort of working with small businesses. So if a little league person comes, and asks for a team sponsorship or something, it's just not a good fit. So if I say like our policy is to give, for, women and minority owned, business programs and initiatives.
Yeah.
That's something that
right.
Then it's not personal,
Right, exactly. Yeah. And Liz was just saying, it's really good to just have a plan, to have it planned out like your marketing plan. It's kind of a strategy, and that, considering the local stuff and also considering the fit, right? Is it, sometimes it makes it easier to decide just based on kind of is it relevant to your business at all? For instance, we also sold books for a local lecture series, the Rosamond Gifford Lecture Series, that was put on by the Friends of the Onondaga County Friends of the Central Library every year. And it was a wonderful partnership that we had with them. I mean, very collaborative, and was, a super great partnership for my store too. But we were selling books off-site at their lecture series. And of course, it made perfect sense for us to, give back, a certain percentage of proceeds from the sale of each event, all the books from each event. So that was pretty much a no-brainer, like, check, we're supporting the Friends of the Central Library in Onondaga County kind of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it's nice when like the nonprofit, like aligns a little bit, like, you're a restaurant and they're a food bank, and you're a bookstore and they're a library, like there is that.
Yes.
It's nice to have that you have a bit of a shared mission. And I know like our business worked a lot with our local YWCA, and as a woman-owned business who provides business space to other businesses, like it was a nice partnership. So thinking through kind of the groups of people you work with, or the kinds of things that your products or services that you sell, and see if there's a nonprofit that will align with what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And if there's a struggle that way, I mean, I think also, getting your employees involved, like maybe they have ideas, that would, be a feel good for them too, to have been able to provide an idea that's either relevant to the business or something very, locally community based. Seek out some support from employees, or colleagues that way too, is, a good idea if you're struggling with that, trying to find a good fit,
Yeah. And I don't know, I'm seeing, I don't know. Do you want to summarize Liz's thoughts?
I don't know.
I told Liz, I was like, I know you have ideas for this broadcast, and she's typing them in our shared chat here. And so basically, if we were going to kind of summarize everything we talked about, besides there being tactics to be generous without necessarily providing cash, asking the nonprofit how you can help, because they've no doubt thought of ways. Like, obviously we all want money, but if someone was like, hey, I want to help you out, and I was like, well, I'd really like money, and someone said, well, I can't give you money, I could give them a list of other ways they could help me out. Oh, you know what, we really need help moving out from this thing on this particular day, or oh, we could really use this kind of supplies or whatever. And nonprofits have no doubt thought about how to use people or other resources, and asking them what they need and trying to fill that, I think, is great, rather than you being like, we're going to collect 200 coats and give them to you. They might be like, well, we don't have any bandwidth for organizing
Right.
any coats. So yeah, I think it's important to ask the nonprofit what they need besides cash. They've thought of that.
Yeah, and I think it's a great point too, because so many nonprofits are like event and fundraising, focus, because that's like their biggest fundraising event of the year. Maybe they do it biannually or something like that. So it could even be, yes, it could be a sponsorship that way, but that it's a really great way to ask, or it's a good idea to ask, because that really might be their priority as far as we really just need a $250 sponsorship this year or something like that, to get that going. But it could also be volunteering at that specific to get that, event going, or, day of event, as far as being there and helping, or even just being present at the event. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think it's actually a great idea to ask them specifically. So.
Yeah. And, and they've been just waiting maybe for someone to ask them to, actually, I do need help. And then the other thing we sort of touched on is the idea of this idea of the budget, this idea of thinking about what you want to commit to. Maybe, like I said, you have a policy of certain kinds of groups or certain kinds of organizations you give to.
Right.
And, and if you have a reason for it, like I said, I can't be offended if I'm, doing a pageant and asked you for a donation, if like that's not in line with like what I do, or even have, like, if you want to do like mini grants or something, you can, have a little application, whatever. But thinking about like a certain part of your budget being allocated to gift giving. And that's something you can plan out for the whole year, and then finally we've talked about this a lot, which is, thinking locally, and we know that local equals larger impact, and and that our dollar goes further. We see these people in our communities, and we know where the help is going, and like it feels really, great to do, especially if you're a local business. You're a local business, like, getting to your local community is just, it really is in line. Oh, what does this nonprofit have to do with your business? Oh, we're all in the same community.
Yeah. And I think it can also provide opportunity for, not that this is the priority, but it can offer up other collaborative opportunities in the future, with that nonprofit or others or other businesses and that kind of thing. And Liz also made the point too, just, when you have a plan, in place as far as what nonprofits you're going to support and that kind of thing, there's nothing wrong with letting the community know, that you're doing it right. I mean, everybody knew about our Angel Tree. We made sure that, we said a certain percentage of proceeds are going to, the Friends of the Central Library. There's no shame in making sure that your community knows, what you do in support. Yeah. So hi, Liz.
Liz has had some really good ideas, and I wanted her to come. I forced her against her will to come on this broadcast and say things that we haven't gotten into, because I was trying to read your comments and also talk, and I just wasn't doing very good at it. So
same,
Liz,
I was struggling too.
Yeah, and Liz, you have good ideas. So
I've been on Zoom since 9 this morning, so I was just like, I need a little break. So now I'm refreshed and ready for my 2 other Zoom calls later this afternoon. So I'm trying to see what was I saying? Well, when you get a strategy, don't do it in anonymity. I even said that right. Make sure you let everybody know. Put it on your social media. Put a poster up in your business. Make little cards that say we're members of, XYZ. Make it count and set a strategy and employ and get your employees involved. If you're operating a business where you have a bunch of high schoolers or young college age kids working there, ask them who they want you to support, because then they'll see the little jar right there and they'll say, hey, can you do this? And offer to round up. I know some people don't like that, and I personally don't like to be asked to contribute to huge national nonprofits at my local drugstore. However, a roundup to a local thing or some way to donate easily at the cash register, that's a little different. And like you guys were saying earlier, boxes, have a box for food donations, have a box for period products, and have your employees talk that up. You talk it up. Join your local chamber of commerce and speak at a meeting and say, hey, here's what we're doing. Who wants to join me? Anybody interested in making it a community thing or a street thing or a chamber thing? There's lots of ways to do that. And just remember though that you have to be right down the middle neutral. Everybody cares about puppies and kittens and old dogs. Everybody cares about wildlife. Everybody cares about food. Some people may not be as, everybody cares about people getting clothed and housed. Some people may feel squeamish about helping addiction services. I'm not saying that's right. I don't think it's right. I have addicts in my family. Well, I think most of us do. But you have to understand you're a business. You're trying to appeal to the broadest swath of people for your products, and you should think about that same strategy for your giving. And it doesn't all have to be in November or December, right? Do it for your own birthday. Happy birthday to me. I'm requesting this. Do it for Animal Month, or I don't know. Is there a kitten month? There's a kitten season that I always see. The one of the nonprofits I personally donate to is a local rescue from which we've adopted a couple dogs, and they're always, I think it's in like June. It's kitten season, and so don't be afraid to tie in stuff like that.
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah, good ideas.
And stay away from the individual, so-and-so is having a cancer benefit. Those are great. Those are, my personal opinion, and I think a solid strategy is donate to those personally, not your business. If cancer is really important to you, then do an American Cancer Society fundraiser, or do a Golisano Children's Hospital in Syracuse cancer fundraiser, or the local hospice who has a lot of end-of-life cancer patients. They took great care of my dad, and we had donations go to them when he passed. So, doesn't have to be, but really think about appealing to that right down the middle, getting 80% of the people to say, yeah, I'm behind that. Because I guess there are people who don't like kittens and puppies. I don't know anybody. They might be out there, right?
We don't understand them, but
they
might exist.
That. Right. Or who doesn't want girls and women to have proper period products? Yeah, I don't understand that either. So think about something that matters to you. And if women's reproductive rights matters to you, maybe you feel squeamish about directly supporting a women's reproductive rights organization, but reproductive rights also is period products. Reproductive rights also is proper clothing and footwear and that kind of stuff. So think about those things.
And something you said earlier on, Liz, made me think that, and I'm trying to think of an example of when I had my store, if we did this, but you could even collaborate with other businesses in your community to maybe pick a charity every year or something like that, like in January, February. The power numbers where it's either an event or something, even if it is just a drive or something, like a coat drive or something, but thinking of ways that, are collaborative. So it's not so difficult, and that feels more like a community, gathering of, and that kind of thing. I think that is a good idea too.
If I go to the library and there's a poster, and the drugstore there's a poster, and Erica's bookshop there's a poster, right. I think, wow, what a great organization. It helps build that goodwill and that feeling of community that it only happens organically. You can't manufacture it. Big companies try to manufacture it all the time, and it very rarely works. And the other thing is get your employees involved, and you know what? Crunch the numbers. If there's an event, and I know there's not a lot of events right now, so some of this is maybe not right for this moment, but someday we'll have events again. Crunch the numbers. See how much it costs to have your employees donate, 2 hours each or something. You might be surprised and that gives them a chance to be out in the community, put a t-shirt on them from your business, put a hat, put a mask, whatever. Get them out there, let everybody know that they're donating their time because of the generosity and the community mindedness of your business.
Yeah.
Can be a very powerful message.
Definitely. Yeah. And it helps you develop relationships, right, with other businesses in your community too. Not just for the nonprofit purpose, but for your, for the local small businesses too. And I think that that's a great way to do that and to develop relationships for sure.
And, if you're in a small town or a small area, your Chamber of Commerce probably doesn't have a large paid professional staff. And right now their cash flow is probably really bad because the chambers make their money off of events. Especially the smaller the chamber, the more their budget depends on events. So there's other places that depend on events too, like animal nonprofits. They have adopt-a-thons, or they go to the local PetSmart or other. And so if they're not able to do those things right now, and you want to concentrate your giving in those areas, that's cool. Everybody knows this is quite a time that we're all living in. So any way that you can think of to get your business involved and get your business at the top of people's minds, and associate with positive nonprofits in your community, the better off you're going to be in the long run. And trade organizations are part of that as well. So think about those. And even if you can't afford to join the chamber, sign up for their free newsletter, show up at their events. You can go to a business after hours when they're having them again and pay $10. You don't have to spend $200 to join the chamber, but you can still get some benefits out of that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I've never done this. Maybe Nicole, you have some ideas about this, but just as far as like a social media drive, I don't know. Collaboratively with other businesses. I'm not saying necessarily a GoFundMe. But, something like that, or, that's collaborative in a way that encourages people to make donations or something to a chosen charity for that year or something. I don't know, but thinking out loud here. But while we're not so event driven, Right.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of power in saying we're the, Jefferson Street community, business community, and we are all supporting this the food bank, and here's how we're doing it. And if you have someone on your staff, or if you yourself are really talented with social media or graphics, take the lead, make something pretty. There's a free Canva account available to anyone. Make something pretty and see if you can share it with some of your friendly neighborhood businesses. And then you'll have room for lots of different sponsors, and put them on there. Use your talent, use your skills. If you are a construction company and you have people who are good at building, Habitat for Humanity, for example, people donate their time there to build ramps, to build homes. But you can help at charities nonprofits that may need help that aren't necessarily building driven. There's lots of ways you can help. And you can always call the SBDC. We're happy to brainstorm.
Well,
absolutely.
And I think that is excellent. And so whether you're watching this in December or the season of giving, end of year, when a lot of nonprofits make most of their money for the year, and most businesses for that matter, or whether you're watching this in the future, I think we all got into running businesses because we wanted to make a difference. And so just think about how your business's tools, whether it's staff, a physical location, and other talents or things you have access to, can make a difference in your local community. And working with a nonprofit's a great way to do that. So thanks, you guys, for joining us today, and everyone watching. And we'll see you next week with another fascinating topic. Liz and Erica, thanks so much for your insights. Contact the SBDC if you need help. They are a free, excellent resource for all businesses. You can email them on this screen. And you don't have to put Marketing Monday in the subject. That's just if you had a question. You can just email them and set up your free counseling session with one of their excellent counselors. So thanks, everyone. Happy holidays, and see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Happy holidays.